From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
wake up, wake up. WarChant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
and this is Wake Up War Chant, presented by Zaxby's
Now here's WarChant.com's Aslan Hajavandi.
and Corey Clark.
Big guy on my left, Andre's on my right. Tight like highways.
Wake up! What up, everybody? It is Wake Up War Chant presented by Zaxby's. I'm Aslan. He is Corey. We work for WarChant.com. You know that. You know the promo code. SAVE50 FSU. I still think it's going on. Gets you 50% off an annual membership if you are a first-time subscriber. We are brought to you as well by our good friends at Zaxby's. Gibson72's got a question in the Renegade Express we're going to get to later, Corey. But he does end it by telling us that the Zaxby's Cobb salad with honey mustard is, quote, da bomb. So he's a 25-year.
Absolutely. It's the best thing on the menu. There's a lot of great things on the menu, but for my money, that's number one.
He's a 25-year Air Force veteran. Would he lead you astray, people?
Absolutely not.
The bomb. And he looks like he joined here almost 6 years ago, December 13th, 2013. So that was a good time. He's probably getting ready, making plans to go to Pasadena, watch a national title game. That was probably pretty cool back in December 13th.
Yeah, that was like a week after the beatdown of Duke in Charlotte.
Heisman winner.
Yeah, that was a good time. Heady days for the Florida State program back then.
It was. 2019, not so much. 2020, who knows? The world's our oyster. We got everything ahead of us. So shout out to Gibson72, and thanks for the shout out to Zaxby's. Indescribably good. Check them out. All right, we have a bunch of questions to get to, Corey. We're going to try to get to as many as we can, but before we get to the questions, we should probably talk about the news and notes of the day. This is becoming interesting, which is one of the most generic words you can probably use in podcasting and radio, as these coaching hires sort of kind of circulate around and Florida State trying to get this staff completed to a certain degree. Kenny Dillingham officially introduced on Wednesday via press release from the university. So offensive coordinator, check. Defensive coordinator sounds like it's currently in a holding pattern, according to our Gene Williams. Too quiet on the Dan Lanning front. So I guess there's levels of quiet, and it's too quiet, which sounds like maybe not happening. So potentially maybe like a plan B guy, which is going to dovetail into a lot of stuff I want to talk about probably today, Corey. But you're not panicking. There's no reason to panic, though, right?
About what? Not having a DC officially named?
Well, just maybe signs not looking like the first guy that we had heard, by we, the Royal We, War Chant had heard, maybe not moving as quickly or as clearly as it was going to be.
Well, yeah, no, panic is a strong word. And look, there was a report out there on Wednesday night that the Memphis DC had agreed to move to Florida State. It was by an athletic person in Memphis, not somebody that has athletic ability. The athletic website, the Memphis reporter for the athletic website that also hosts a radio show up there, said that a source had told him that he was coming to Florida State to be with Norvell. So that would kind of put out any rumors, or that would squash any fire or smoke about Lanning coming. Yeah, I don't think panic is the right word. If that's who he goes with, if that's who ends up Norvell goes with, it's not a needle mover for me. I would not be completely overjoyed necessarily with getting the Memphis defensive coordinator. I think he'd only been there a year, and he did do a very good job at Memphis for a year. But he's been in coaching for 20 years, and that Memphis is the biggest school he's been at. Before Memphis, he was at Marshall. And before that, I know he was the head guy. I did a little bit of research on him on Wikipedia. And before that, I know at some point he was the head coach of Assumption College.
That's
for
correct.
A season.
Yeah.
Which, whatever that is, I'm going to go ahead and assume, I'm going to go ahead and make an assumption that he wasn't very good in that role if he was only there for a year. But anyway, not even if it's Lanning, I would have been more – that would have been much more impressed, obviously, and I think everybody would have if it had been a bigger name. If this ends up being the hire, that's not going to move a needle. You'd like somebody that had a little more experience, or a lot more experience, in my opinion, dealing in the Southeast and coaching at a big-time school. Then again, I get the counter, right? Like, Harlan Barnett was at Michigan State for a decade, and they had some incredible defenses. Just because you've been at a Power 5 school doesn't guarantee success at another Power 5 school. And this guy might be great. He did do a good job at Memphis if you look at their numbers from 18 to 19. He did do a good job in that regard. Their defense was better, not great, but better. But yeah, I don't know. It's the one thing out of all the things that Norvell's done so far, from the press conference to the offensive coordinator hire to this, where you wonder, okay, how's that going to go over? If it's him.
Right. If, the big caveat there. It made me sort of just ponder. 2020 is going to be crazy. Sure, most people know Willie Taggart. I think he's officially been named the head coach at FAU, the FAU. And it doesn't feel eerily. It doesn't feel similar, but if you start looking at it, it kind of maybe is, just in terms of, I don't even know how important an offensive coordinator hire really is when your head coach is going to be calling the plays. Although, hey, I might have said something like that back in February of 2018. And then, the belief is like, all right, you're going to bring the kind of the band with you. But Willie's band was a little bit better. Like, Willie's band was the Beatles with Levitt and Cristobal. Norvell's band's probably like Oasis, maybe like a tick under Oasis. I don't know another English band to drop. That's
Blur.
Maybe...
How about Blur?
Okay. Well, Blur's song number 2 still got longevity, though. It's still going strong. Maybe Bush. Right. What about Bush? I think Bush is British.
Bush is a good one. Yeah, okay.
Bush
is an Oasis. In my opinion, Bush is an Oasis, but Bush was still a solid band.
Okay. So that's where we're kind of at. And obviously the firestorm that my tweet caught about people being very excited for Willie, thinking that I was like trying to say that you shouldn't be happy for him. I was just curious about how it all works. But if he,
what was your? I haven't checked in hours. What'd your ratio end up being on that?
I don't know. Let me pull it up.
I'm gonna look at it right now. You keep talking.
Pull it up. What is gonna happen when Willie Taggart messes around and wins like 9 games? Let's say 8 games.
It doesn't matter. It's FAU, man.
It does, though, because if he wins 8 games and then Mike Norvell struggles out to a 5-win season, which is in the realm of possibility.
Oh, absolutely.
Then the conversations that are going to start happening, like on social media, I don't think there'll be panic by David Coburn or whoever's the athletic director at that point or things like that. But like fan base wise, if Willie goes down to Baton Rouge, Boca Raton, a little bit different BR, and wins 8 games, and then you got a guy here who came from a kind of similar background, didn't even have that Power 5 year, and then kind of missed out on these really big names that people have been talking about at coordinator spots, and then kind of stumbles his way through a year 1 struggle, which probably is going to be the case because the defense, we gloss over, which like the defense isn't good. I mean, who is the defensive line next season? I mean, where is your depth there? Linebacker, you still don't feel very good about. And on the back end, who really knows? It's just been so underperforming. I guess you hope that they just get like a fire lit under them, and then maybe they find some sort of aggression. They play up to their recruiting ranking. But it's going to be really crazy when Willie has a pretty successful year 1, which is possible, and then Mike Norvell maybe struggles in year 1, and the kind of conversations that are going to happen. And you can blow it off and be like, oh, it's FAU, it's different, and obviously it is. I don't think that really will affect the freight train of sort of criticism and whispers of stuff. So I don't want to talk about that too much, but I just find it curious.
But if you're talking about logical, rational people, you're taking over a defense that wasn't good to begin with and is losing Marvin Wilson. Like, you're taking over a train wreck of a defense that's literally one of the worst in the country. It's going to be hard. It's going to be, and this was one of the. And the offense wasn't great. I mean, you're taking over a 6-6 team that very much earned that 6-6 record. Like, yeah, they lost a few close games. They also won a few close games. So it all, in the end, you're talking about a team that's 18-19 in 3 years. It's hard to imagine like turning that into a 9 or 10 win team in one season. Meanwhile, he's taken over a program that just won a conference championship, right?
Correct. Second one in 3 years.
I just think that the context matters. Yeah, I mean, I guess you could be like. And also, we know Willie Taggart couldn't do the job here. I mean, he had time to prove that he could, and he didn't. Not a ton of time, but 21 games. So I just think you're going to look at it differently. I think we're gonna judge his tenure differently than we judged Willie, fair or unfair. It's so much of it is how it looks.
Right.
Again, there's penalties that are aggressive penalties, and there's just dumb penalties, and there's dumb decisions that you make at the end of games that baffle everyone. And there's I don't know, man. I just want to see a team that plays hard, that is aggressive. Like, I think you can look at next season because it's a hard schedule, man. You're at Boise State. You're at a neutral site at West Virginia, in Atlanta with West Virginia. You got Florida, Clemson, at Miami, at Louisville, at NC State. Like, none of those games would you say are expected wins. Not with what he's got coming back. So you just want to see a team that flipping plays hard and is aggressive and violent and physical. And I think if you see that and you see a guy that seems to know what he's doing on the offensive side of the ball, knowing the limitations that he might have on the offensive line, I think you can live with a 5-7 or 6-6 record because you might see that it's moving in the right direction. I think when we look at next season, and we'll talk about this a lot over the next 11 months, you can look at next season and maybe he goes 5-7 or 6-6 against that schedule. And you go, well, gosh darn, Willie went 6-6. Like, that's not an improvement at all. Well, what you have to ask yourself is, what would Willie Taggart's team have done in 2020 against that schedule? Because to me, it didn't look like the thing was on the uptick where next season they're winning 9 games. To me, the way they played in 2019, I would have expected 4 wins against that schedule, maybe 5. I just didn't see any growth, really, at all. So I think that's how you have to judge next season, which is, it's a bad place to be as a Florida State fan, man. It's just a bad place to be. We're a 5-win season. I wouldn't say it's expected, but would you be stunned if they won 5 games next year?
Well, you just rattled off the schedule. Of course not. Those are losses.
But I think you think he's a good coach.
Who, Taggart or Norvell?
I think he's a good coach. I think he has a chance to really do big things here. But that first season's going to be a
mug.
An eyesore. Yeah. It's going to be gross, man. It's not going to be fun. 2021 is where you got to start seeing real improvement. But 2020 is going to be a slog, man. It's going to be tough to get through that thing, in my opinion, and get to a bowl.
Yeah. Well, it's just so many more conversations are going to branch off of this now that Willie's going to be active at FAU. If he does well and then this program struggles, it'll be, the conversations about the roster. Was it the players? He didn't have the ability to churn it over the way he wanted to. All these sort of things that people were saying were working against him. I just hope that Mike Norvell if it is going to be Adam Fuller, I mean, there is not, and these reports that are coming out just says, I think they're just saying he's going to come be a coach. Doesn't necessarily he's going to take the see, one of the tweets says he's going to take the DC job. Maybe he'll be like the linebackers coach, and they're still on the hunt for defensive coordinator. Maybe the guy's really coaches above his head, but it's not a very good roster, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And golly gee whiz, bringing in a guy, the coach at Memphis, to coach in the ACC with this schedule, with these players, does not feel like a very good first step forward. And I don't know, I mean, I guess Mike Norvell deserves the benefit of the doubt that even if it's going to be a bad year, this guy will at least put the things in place to make it successful. So we shall
And I
see.
did just look it up. So Adam Fuller took over after last season. And in 2018, Memphis allowed 31.5 points per game. This season, they averaged 24.4 they allowed.
You got to look at the analytics.
So he cut
what about the S&P,
I mean,
bro?
that's a huge difference.
Yeah.
I mean, he cut a full touchdown off the board of what teams were doing. Now, I don't know the makeup of Memphis's roster to know, like, if it was just guys getting better. Like, they had a lot of freshmen in 18, and a lot of freshmen and sophomores, and they got bigger and stronger and older and better. But cutting off a touchdown per game in one season with, I assume, much of the same roster, I mean, that is pretty impressive. It's just that my man he's like in his mid-40s, and Memphis is the best place he's ever been. That would concern me a little, but that doesn't mean that he doesn't know what the F he's doing with X's and O's. He might be a great X's and O's guy. He might be a legitimately good defensive coordinator, and he'll turn out to be really good at Florida State.
It's just a name that I never had heard. Like, Pete Golding had buzz around his name, and it's like, who? They're like, oh, the defensive coordinator at Texas San Antonio, real good guy, real up-and-comer. Like, what? And then sure enough, Alabama, hires him. Now they didn't have their best defensive season this year, so who knows what they're talking about. But it's don't let your number 2 hire be like the Walt Bell. Like you wanted Mario Cristobal, didn't work out, and you ended up with Walt Bell. Hopefully, like Adam Fuller is not defensive Walt Bell, but with worse.
I mean, I did. Sorry to cut you off. I did just look up again. He also cut off like 55 yards per game.
Well, they didn't play UCF this year, so that helps out. Ole Miss was a lot worse this year than last year as well, too. So.
Well, yeah, but overall, I mean, you saw that championship game. Like their defense was pretty good, I guess. All things considered.
Quarterback looked lousy since he couldn't.
But cutting, I mean, Memphis's defense has been horrendous the last couple of years. So for him to cut them, to make them, this year they averaged 372 yards per game allowed. The year before they averaged 425. So that, again, you're cutting off almost 50 yards per game and 7 points per game in one season. That's a pretty good gauge. I don't know, but who knows how it translates to the ACC.
Way to hedge it, Corey. Corey Clark, never taken a side since 1989. All right, let's get to the ponies, Corey. It's time for the Renegade Express, which is sponsored by First Commerce Financial. And you know what? Now may be the perfect time to refinance your mortgage, or maybe you're in the market looking to purchase a home. If either is true, First Commerce Financial is a pure mortgage broker who eliminates the junk fees associated with most mortgages. In fact, mention that you heard about them on War Chant, and they'll also waive the appraisal fee if you're a qualified borrower. First Commerce Financial's mission: provide transparent mortgage solutions to help you grow your overall net worth. If you or someone you know is in the market to buy or refinance, give First Commerce Financial a call at 248-207-2404 or visit firstcommercefinancial.com. 248-207-2404. Licensed in Florida, Michigan, Arizona, and California.
Well done, Aslan. Did you know, I'm just throwing this out there, that Rutgers had a better defense statistically than Florida State did? Rutgers gave up less yards per game than Florida State.
Well, here's the thing, and this is going to send us into like a 10-minute tizzy. What were they doing? I mean, Harlan Barnett's approach was fast, physical, and aggressive. Was he not coaching them that way? Were they incapable of being fast, physical, and aggressive? Like, how can you have that be your credo and then you play like that? Like, where is the disconnect? Is he just, I know what I want my guys to look like, but I don't know how to put them in those positions, although I've been coaching for the last 15 years of my life? Like, the whole thing is bizarre. That this defense could be that bad.
I don't know, but it was awful. I mean, 436 yards per game. To give up more yards than Rutgers did, to give up more yards than Troy, Texas San Antonio, UTEP, Utah State. All these teams had better defenses statistically than Florida State. And you can say, well, yeah, they're playing different teams and they're not playing in the ACC. All right, well, they also don't have Marvin Wilson and Amari Gaynor and Samuels and Samuel and these guys that are 4- and 5-star recruits, man. I mean, it's just disgusting. It's just
gross.
They had, think of all the games they played in the last 2 years where they didn't have a chance to stop Florida. They were completely overwhelmed against Florida, and Florida's not a very good offense. Notre Dame's offense last year, like, was that a great offense? And they didn't even have their starting quarterback, and they could have named their score against Florida State and said, hey, we're going to run right off right tackle, and we know that you can't stop us. And that was with Brian Burns along with Marvin Wilson. Like, it just I'm to the point, man, where same thing with Taggart, really, but even more so with Harlan Barnett. And again, I like the guy as a person a lot. Very, very nice man, and always very, very amicable with us. And would answer any question you asked, even if it was a hard one, as well as he could. But it's addition by subtraction. I don't know the first thing about Adam Fuller. That's his name, right?
Correct. Yes.
But I'm to the point where it can't be worse.
Yeah. No, you're
you
right.
almost have to actively try to give up 600 yards to Boise in the first game of the season to a true freshman quarterback.
Or
you almost have to say, hey man, we're just gonna leave this patch of grass wide open. Do what you can. So you look at the Boise game and then you look at the Florida game. Did it ever really get any better?
Yeah. No.
Did they ever get better? Did they ever figure out anything they were good at? They got pretty good at stopping the run for a while. Great, man. But then Virginia whose quarterback isn't great, just nickel and dimed all the way down the field, and you had no chance to stop them with your zone. You didn't make any plays. You didn't play fast, physical, and aggressive. It was just gross to watch. So if this guy can bring just aggressiveness, and again, I think that all starts with Norvell, but if he can just get these guys to play hard from opening kick to the final whistle, man, they're going to give up points, they're going to give up yards, but at least change the mindset. At least be physical and aggressive and make some plays, for crying out loud. And tell Akeem Dent to quit standing over guys after they scored touchdowns. Just get that through.
We're going to jump around these questions.
Let's do it.
We're probably not going to take all of them. We'll probably do some tomorrow as well, but I don't know if we'll get to all of them. We got like over 30 this time. And the throw is only up for like 8 hours, so y'all are hungry. Appreciate that. Knowles MG4 says, wake up! Good morning, War Chant gents. I think that getting the right hire is the key for all other positions on defense. Would love for Lanning and T-Buck to join Odell. That would be sweet. My question for you, though, how many plan B, C, D would we go to before you panic on the hires on that side of the ball? As always, 5 stars, and thanks for all you do. Well, it sounds like we already had it. And again, I'm not panicking, but it's just it seems kind of underwhelming. Kind of wanted to dream big on this hire, and I don't think this is really dreaming big. But to Corey's point, we'll see how it all works out. You never know. He's slashed off 7 points.
Yeah, I mean, there isn't
yards.
any. I mean, we'll see. There isn't necessarily a guarantee that he's even bringing him over as the DC. Yeah. He might bring him over as the outside linebackers coach or something, and he still has his eyes on a bigger DC. This guy did do a really good job in his 1 year at Memphis, but literally, I think he's been a DC for 2 years. I think he was a DC at Marshall for a year, and then went to Memphis, and now, reportedly, and we don't know for sure, it's just a report, is coming to Florida State. So, yeah, man, it's underwhelming if that's your DC, because I guess my frame of reference, the way I view this is, if Florida State had hired Bob Stoops,
Yes, right.
would his DC be the DC from Memphis, or would he aim higher? And just, again, when you understand skepticism when Florida State fans and media just went through what we went through. Where, look, man, there were a lot of better options than Raymond Woody. There are a lot of better options at wide receiver coach than David Kelly. So are you just going to bring the guys that you're familiar with? Is that how you're going to run Florida State? Or are you going to tell yourself, man, I'm at Florida State, I can go get just about any DC in the country, save for 10 or 11 that are out there that just won't come. Every other school in the country is fair game. I could go get some coaches from the NFL. The Florida State defensive coordinator is a pretty lucrative job.
It is. Yeah.
So that's what you hopefully you wonder about, and that's where my concern would be is like, man, just don't go with what you know, because you got to get somebody on staff before signing day. Like, don't make that mistake. Go get I don't know, just go see what else you can do. Like, I'd hate for it to be Lanning says no. Okay, I'm going to go get my Memphis DC guy now because I got to get this staff together. Man, take your time if you have to. Make sure this is the right hire, because this, by far, in my opinion, is the biggest hire he's going to make, is at DC. He is an offensive guy. He does great things offensively, but it's Florida State, man. You have to fix this defense too. So make sure, and this guy Adam Fuller might be incredible, but you better be darn sure if he's your DC, because this is the hire that could get you fired if it doesn't work out.
Yeah. I've kind of read the question wrong. I kind of skipped down to because I was thinking he wanted us to give
my
him
bad.
No. You did fine. I went to it wrongly. I thought he was wondering like who our Plan B, Plan C guys were if it wasn't going to be Lanning. The only name that I kind of had on the tip of my tongue, front of my head, was Mike McIntyre at Ole Miss. But I don't know if he's going to be kept or not by Lane. I know he's being the interim coach he was the interim coach after I guess as they got ready to get Lane on board or whatever. But he's a really good head coach at Colorado. I think he was actually coach of the year, I want to say. And then he did what kind of you've been talking about in terms of just take it from horrible to decent. And like he took a really horrible Ole Miss defense and actually made him pretty decent. And that would have been a name I would have liked to see. But hey, what do I know? What do I know? 12th in Norway. Wasn't T. Martin an ace recruiter during his time at Southern Cal? Look it up, Aslan. Would Nick Saban even consider hiring Willie Taggart as an analyst? What would Taggart offer to the program? Well, he doesn't have to because he's going to be a head football coach. T. Martin, I did check it out. He was actually one of the Rivals.com top 25 recruiters of 2018. Apparently his name's on there year after year, it says. He got the number 3 recruit in the nation and had a valuable assist on the number 4 recruit in the nation. Ron Dugans was also on that list in 2018. So there is that. Theris jokes around, says, is there any chance we could get Sam Howell to transfer from UNC?
I think he's set there, but hey, maybe. He'll sit out a year. It's fine. Did you see his numbers, by the way, what he ended up with?
No. It broke records, though, I think, right?
I think he threw like 36 touchdowns.
Yeah. Well.
What can he do? Hey, you know what? What can he do?
Yeah, you win some.
Thanks a lot, Walt Bell.
You win some, you lose a lot. Ev Goodwin, trying not to get too jazzed this time around, no matter how much I like Norvell. Question, what would be what he might do differently at FSU than he did previously, given he'll have better talent? Do you think he would eliminate penalties, try to speed up play? I don't know. It's a good question. What would he do differently at Florida State than he's done at previous stops? I don't know. I think it just sounds like he trusts his system, his people, his guys, and maybe he does think that he can beat Clemson with, the Cincinnati game plan, or at least kind of that mentality, and just with better talent, which is going to take some time to accumulate. At some point, he can maybe take over. I don't feel too optimistic about that, but hey, I'm not the optimistic guy.
About what?
About if you can just stay the course. Like if you can coach the way you coached at Memphis, like bring that blueprint over here and follow it like, pretty much lockstep when you're over here. I don't know how much, then again, I don't know how much variance Urban Meyer had at Florida than he did in Utah. Like how much more different of a guy was he in Gainesville than he was at Salt Lake? Did he pretty much follow what he did there? Was it drastic changes or really minor tweaks?
Don't you think it's the same? I mean, it's the same stuff. You're coaching the same way.
Ball's ball.
You view the game the same way. It's just the players you get to utilize are different. That to me is the biggest thing, is the players he brings in. I don't think anybody doubts Norvell's acumen for offensive football, and he's won at as high level as you can possibly win at a place like Memphis. So he can turn an okay program into a really good program at that level. But I certainly don't think he's going to change the way he does things. Maybe the players at Florida State are different than what you have to deal with at Memphis as far as entitlement and the people you're recruiting against. But I think he'll figure that out. I do. I think he'll just looking at, and I know they're just tweets, but the way the players are tweeting about him, at least a few of them, I think that's an encouraging sign. I think you've got to figure out a way to get these guys to buy in. But, he got the guys in Memphis to buy in and turn them into a pretty good football team. So I think he trusts his process, that word that we love so much, that buzzword process. I think he does trust the process and how he does things. It's just a matter of getting fish in the boat, man. Get players. I guarantee you he's a cocky enough guy that he knows that if he gets good players, he truly believes 100% that he's going to win national championships at Florida State. I just think he's a cocky enough guy to really think that, which is good for him. I want him to think that.
By the way, people don't like you calling him cocky. They think you miss the mark when you call him cocky.
I mean, the cocky to me isn't a pejorative, man. It's not a bad word.
I'm just telling you, man.
When I pick up this microphone each day, folks.
Right.
And Aslan says 3, 2, 1, wake up, like he does. You best believe I'm cocky. I know I'm bringing it. I certainly know I'm the best of us two, and I feel like I'm probably the best in the state. So it doesn't affect, and that I got to live up to that. You know what I mean? I got to bring it every day. So cockiness is a good thing. There's nobody that's been more cocky than Deion Sanders. He was pretty cocky, and it worked out for him. I really don't think cocky is a bad thing. Confident, fine, if you want to change it to that. But I like a little air of cockiness. I really do, especially, you got to back it up. It's got to be earned. But my man's just got his team to the Cotton Bowl. at Memphis and was 2 points away from being undefeated at Memphis. He deserves to be a little cocky. Nothing wrong with that.
I shouldn't
You're cocky, right, Aslan, in certain things?
Oh, no, I'm humble, man. I'm humble as humble pie. I shouldn't read this because I don't really know what I'm supposed to say to it. And this is probably why
I can't wait to hear this.
Yeah, right. NLB NPB. I mean, come on, guys. Figure it out, man. You got a name. Use your name. Put a number on it. Looking forward, what are your takes on off-season benchmarks that will define success prior to the 2020 season? And then he gives us, I think, some propositions like number of transfers in, O-line, DN, linebacker, players with NFL potential returning for next season, players we absolutely cannot afford to lose to the NFL or portal, hierarchy of the quarterback room through spring practice. What are the benchmarks that will define success prior? Of all that, if tomorrow Marvin's gone, Cam is gone. And I love you, Cam. I do. He knows it. If Cam comes back, I don't even really know how much I move. If you put the over-under for Florida State at 5.5 wins and you're like, Cam's going to be back, I still would be like, I don't know. I think like number of transfers at offensive line, or maybe some sort of crazy quarterback shows up that's really high up there. I think those are the two things that would affect my optimism level of that list provided.
Yeah, how about just signing a quarterback?
Okay.
That'd work, right?
Not a bad idea.
I know Jeff Sims apparently just decommitted, which wasn't a stunner. He has no relationship with Mike Norvell. You would just like at some point Florida State to bring in a high school quarterback again. Remember those days, Aslan?
Yeah.
When Florida State would sign high school quarterbacks and they would come and play at Florida State?
Like the great J.J. Cosentino. I remember it fondly.
Yeah, or Smag.
Yeah.
Or Jay Black. Or even Francois. Like all those guys were high school quarterbacks that said, you know what, I'm going to go play at Florida State. And the last person to do that was it Blackman and Hockman?
That did, yeah.
You know, Hockman's got a beard now. He might be 31 years old. I don't know how old these kids are. It has been a long time since Florida State has signed a high school quarterback. So just prove you can do that. And then we'll go from there. As far as benchmarks, they're going to lose kids in the portal, and they're going to lose kids to the draft. It would be very shocking to me if Wilson or Akers came back. Wilson, no chance. Akers, I would say a 15% chance.
Cam's following Norvell.
Might be 50-50. I don't know.
Yeah.
Terry should come back, in my opinion. I say that knowing that he could leave and be guaranteed a couple million, $3 million contract if he left. But man, he's not on the list of the top 8 or 10 receivers in the league in the draft. I think he could come back and maybe be featured in this offense and put himself in the top half of the first round. But that's easy for me to say, right? Like,
yeah,
he could declare tomorrow, and he's going to be making a contract that gives him guaranteed, I don't know, 3 or 4 years, $3 million. That's a lot of money for a kid that grew up in Turner County. It's a lot of money for anyone. It's a lot of money for me. I grew up in Gwinnett County. So I'd be surprised if those 3 came back, but I don't think that's an indictment, right? Like,
no.
I don't think that's an indictment on Norvell if those 3 guys leave and if some kids transfer out.
Yeah, it just happens. Part of doing business. Yeah, I just don't know what. I mean, if he is quote unquote featured. I mean, he was the number 1 wide receiver for this team with Kendall Briles, who doesn't have bad offenses. Just this happened probably to be the worst offense that he's coordinated over in his career. I just don't. I mean, if he does get a good grade back and he believes in himself and he knows he's going to jump through the gym and he's going to run 4.4. I just don't know coming back here. It's a lot of risk. I mean, not even so much health, but just who's he going to catch passes from? Is the offensive line going to be that much better? I mean, how much better is Norvell?
Are they going to win any games? Yeah. He doesn't know this guy. It's his 3rd coach in 3 years.
Yeah.
Like, these. I totally understand. It's a bummer, but I totally understand. Obviously, those 3 guys leaving for the draft. But I would also understand if a couple other kids just decided to bounce and try it out at another school. This isn't what they came to Florida State for. Mike Norvell's job right now, his mission, is to make Florida State a destination school again. Right now, it's not in the eyes of the big-time players, the big-time recruits. That's his job. So, Hopefully he can get it done. But, yeah, I just think, man, I thought Willie Taggart did everything perfectly in his first offseason. From, he didn't sign a quarterback, which was a bit of a bummer, but he also he signed a top 10 class in 6 weeks. And then the night before his first game, donated $1 million to the school. And everything in between was pretty darn good. Obviously, his coaching hires weren't great. We didn't know that at the time how bad it was, but, his coaching hires didn't turn out to be well. But we thought from December of 2017 to September of 2018, he did almost everything perfectly. And then it was an abject failure on the field. So I'm not going to judge Mike Norvell by the offseason. I want to see tangible evidence and proof on the football field that he knows what he's doing. That's all I'm looking for, man. That's all I'm looking for.
Well, I guess that kind of answers the next question. Random_John. Good morning, sirs. Corey, if you were able to grow a full head of hair again, would you, if there was a condition that you had to pick either wearing Norvell-esque cornrows or Ira-style eyebrows, or better yet, both?
Well, so we talked about it on Headlines on Tuesday. Obviously, it was 3 white dudes, 2 of which are bald, that have no idea how cornrows work. I think Ira thought that you shaved your head in the middle and just twisted them up. We tried to make a deal with Ira that if Florida State won 10 games next year, that he would have to cornrow it up just to see what it looked like. I mean, they'd be gray rows, not cornrows. They'd be gray rows. But he said no, he wouldn't do it because he was scared that his hair wouldn't come back. I'm like, dude, I think your hair still stays. It's just the way it's presented. It's all tightened up. But if I had the hair that I used to have, I never did a ponytail. I would definitely want to see what I look like with cornrows. I think I would look pretty darn good with cornrows.
I don't think you'd find a lot of people that argue against you. I don't think you would.
I mean, there's got to be somebody out there that's good at Photoshop. Photoshop some cornrows on me, on my bald head, because I think it would play. I think it would really play.
I think you would look like Jody High Roller. Look him up, Corey.
Right.
The question from Random John, and I think you kind of touched on it. Now that we have a new coach, what expectations should be reasonable in Norvell's first season? Offensively, defensively, will we return a punt, etc.? Well, it's interesting because he's walking into probably a worse situation than Willie. And,
Absolutely. I don't think it's probably right. It's definitely worse.
Well, some people would disagree with you, Corey. I happen to agree.
No, who? Nobody would disagree.
Right.
Right. I think the program was at a crossroads and was going down the wrong path, obviously, before Jimbo left. But at least it had some talent on it.
Yeah.
It didn't have quarterbacks. And again, if you want to talk about one of the blights that Jimbo left this program was after Jameis, he never brought a quarterback in here that was worth anything, which is bizarre. But yeah, man, I mean, you look at this, you look at what he's taken over for, what he's taken over with. It's not as good a place. You've got at least the kids. A lot of the kids on Willie's first team had been in an Orange Bowl. Most of them didn't make a lot of difference in that Orange Bowl, but they at least were there and were part of a program that got to an Orange Bowl. These guys, the team he's taken over with now, have been Shreveport, nothing, El Paso. So, yeah, man, he's definitely taken over a worse program, in my opinion.
Well, when we were rattling off the schedule, back in August of 2018, like Virginia Tech win, Samford win, Syracuse win. I think we ended up at 9 or 10. I just don't think it's going to be that way at all with Norvell. Now, is that fair? Is that unfair? Are we judging on a different scale? I don't. That's people will argue about that on social media. So that is that.
Well, I think we thought Francois was better than he was, or I think we thought Francois would make a jump. Cam Akers was coming back. Didn't quite realize how bad the offensive line was, but. I will say this, and I'm not your crazy ass tweet on Wednesday, notwithstanding. I don't like how Jimbo left, and I don't like the place he left the program in. and I think it was on the wrong track. It wasn't getting better. He wouldn't have gone 5-7 with that team. That wasn't a 5-7 roster. That was an 8-win roster, especially with that schedule. That was an 8-win roster that morphed into 5 wins. The problem I had with Jimbo is I didn't ever think it was going to get back. It didn't look like it was getting anywhere close to being back to where it was. So I was cool with him leaving. I just thought it was good for him to get out of town, and it was probably good for Florida State to reset. They just chose the wrong guy to reset with. But now, this to me isn't an 8 or 9 win roster. It's a 6-win roster. So I do think Jimbo left Willie with more talent than obviously Willie used, because that's the 5-7 year was crazy. It wasn't just that they lost 7 games; it was that 6 of them were absolute blowouts. And so now when you move ahead to 2019, 2020 for Norvell, man, what's the ceiling? Like if he's an incredible coach and he lands a great quarterback in this class, and the offensive line becomes average and the defense becomes average, what's the ceiling still? 9 wins at most?
I was going to say 7.
I mean, 8 wins if you're lucky, probably 9 wins if you're lucky. 8 wins is probably the ceiling. That's where this program is right now. It's a darn shame, Aslan. It's a darn shame. I used to cover a lot of wins.
Yeah. For me, I think I do like being consistent. I don't like being a hypocrite. I try to avoid being a hypocrite, so I'm not going to put a number on it. I think Corey did a good job of explaining maybe the reasoning of putting a number on it and what the number should be. But it's just going to be to look at 12 games, which is all you're guaranteed. And if he gets rained out on one and he wants to make it up on a week when he can do that. And that's fair. And that's not doing the cheap thing. He's got 12 games. Let's just see enough over 12 weeks. It doesn't have to be steady growth. He can look really good in week 5, and then week 12 against the Gators, he can kind of come crashing down. But can you piece enough stuff together? Are there enough bright spots? Not even so much like on the roster, but just in terms of play calling, game management, tough situations that you're able to overcome, maybe upset a team. If you're maybe you might end up losing to a team that you should have beat. But how about you kind of come back a week or two later and maybe you beat number, 21 West Virginia or something like that. Just I want to see pieces that you can build something for 2021. I don't need to see week 1 to week 12 steady growth week over week. I just don't think that's going to happen. But just give me enough pieces, that I can build a nice little puzzle to put on my coffee table.
And you want to see improvement, right? Like that's always a plus, right? When the team is better in week 11 and week 12 than it was in week 1. And that, that hasn't happened a lot here lately. It certainly didn't happen with Willie at all. They weren't any better in 2018. They weren't any better in week 12 than they were in week 1. It was the same team. And then this past year, they were worse against Miami than they were in any other game that season. And then the same thing would have happened at Florida if he was at the helm, because it happened without him. Like, they didn't get any better. Just teams are allowed to get better, man. Like, that's allowed. A lot of teams actually do that. You got, this looks like a completely different team from September. Well, yeah, because they improved. They learned what they were good at and what they weren't good at. They maximized their assets. Do that one time, man. That would be awesome to see. So I don't expect them to beat Florida next year. I don't even know if they'll be competitive. But if they are, and if they look better in week 11 and week 12 than they did against Boise, I think they open with Boise, right? Or no, they open West Virginia.
Yeah.
If they look better against Florida, if they look like a different team in November than they do against Boise and West Virginia, well, good, man. That means that they're actually being coached up and they're progressing and they're developing. That's what coaches do. That's what programs do. Good ones anyway. So it'd be cool to see that. That to me will be more telling than even a record. I mean, 6-6, 5-7, 7-5. Just flip a coin. That doesn't really matter. If you want to believe in this coach, you want to see tangible progression from week 1 to week 12 or week 13, whatever it would be. I think that will make people get on board for 2021. And yep, I'm already looking ahead to 2021.
You have a really good way about you. Like, I'm about to ask you a question, but then you keep going on, and then it makes the question no longer relevant, so I don't ask it. Next question.
All right, that's smart.
Azai Yahola 82, who's going to reply to me and say, "You're dumb. This is how you pronounce it correctly." Sorry, man. I'm not Native American. Love the show, guys. Listen to it on the way to work every morning. The way you guys ham and egg it is great. Now I feel really bad. Love you, man. A question for both of you. If you could give Mike Norvell one piece of advice for moving forward with FSU football, what would it be? Particularly knowing what you know about the previous coach's mistakes. Thanks, guys. Go Noles. Make practice miserable. Sorry. I mean, just make practice pretty miserable. Try to not thud a lot. Make it as physical as possible. If you lose some guys, that sucks. It really does. And that's not me being flippant. Losing a guy in practice is a tough sort of way the cookie crumbles. But I just feel that would go a good way of making this team look better on Saturdays. Just really physical practices. That's my one piece of advice.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know that how many teams actually practice like full out. We're going to tackle each other on Tuesdays and Wednesdays.
All right, what would you do, Corey? What do you want to do? What's your one piece of advice?
I would say my piece of advice would be to lose your mind on the sideline a couple of times.
Brilliant. Hey, let's take a break. We'll be right back.
You know, because I can't give him any coaching advice. The guy knows 6 times more about football than I do. I could give him advice about, learning Florida State names of the past and to ingratiate yourself with fans. But man, show that you care to the point. Not losing your mind like you have to be restrained and steam's coming out of your ears, but just the guy that was in that press conference where he got all preachy and loud and demonstrative. Let fans see that a lot because they didn't see that the last 2 years, man. For better or worse, they didn't see that. So I think that's something that they would like to see. And also, if you score a touchdown and the officials screw it up, challenge it.
I thought he said they wouldn't let him challenge it.
He could have called a timeout. He's right. They're supposed to. He was told by the referee they're looking at it up top. If they haven't buzzed down, that means that it's not that the call was right. But have somebody in the booth that you trust. Number one, there's my advice. Get me. I don't know how Norvell is with late game decisions and clock management. Hire me. I'll do that for you for only $100,000 a year. Which is that's a penance, man. You can afford that. I'll do it for $100,000 a year. That's 12 Saturdays. Also, and I will also be the guy that in the box that tells you, hey, man, you have to stop the game so we can challenge that. That was a touchdown. Nooney was in. Nooney was over the goal line. That's a touchdown. And, hey, that was a absolute lateral. That was a lateral. That touchdown should count. Do not run this next play. Call a timeout, make him look at it. I'll do that for $100,000. That's my piece of advice. Hire me for $100,000. And I'm only showing up an hour before the game, and I might even leave before the game is over. If everything, I don't have to stick around. I'm not going to be in the locker room. I'm not going to be the rah-rah guy. I will be solely up in the booth. I might even be in the press box, and I can just text them. However we communicate, that's my piece of advice. Hire me to make sure you get that right at the end.
We're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
At Birch Orthodontics, they know what a difference a beautiful and healthy smile can make in your life.
They take the time to get to know you and perform a thorough exam so that they can make an individualized treatment plan just for you or your child.
They use the latest technology in a warm and comfortable environment. So whether you are interested in traditional metal or clear braces or clear aligners, they can give you the smile you deserve. They know investing in your smile means investing in your future. And at Birch Orthodontics, they are honored to be a part of your smile journey.
Serving Tallahassee for 16 years and supporting the Noles since forever. Check them out at birchorthodontics.com. BURCH orthodontics.com. Hey, let's keep it light for a second. I skipped over this question. I did it kind of intentionally. I think there's a couple other of them, but we can't get to all of them. We're closing in on an hour, darn it. Primetime 92. Hey, girls. That's how he says. My question has nothing to do with football. If you could go back in time, what would you tell yourself when you were 27 years old? That's how old I am. I'm looking for any sage wisdom from you two. Also, Aslan, how did you like living in Montana? I've always wanted to travel out there. I'm not very outdoorsy, but it really is beautiful. If you do go out there, I would go in the summertime to southwest Montana. I'd go to Bozeman. I think that'll be the best bang for buck. You can go tubing. You can go fly fishing, do all that good stuff. There's actually good skiing if you want to go in the winter. If I could go back to Montana, though, I would go to the northwest part of the state. I would go to Glacier National Park. I went to Yellowstone. It was beautiful, but I'd rather go to Glacier when it's open. It's I feel like it's a little more end of the earth, kind of edge of the earth, rather, just wild wilderness craziness. So I'd rather do that. But it was like a 9-hour drive from Bozeman, so I was like, pass. If I give myself one piece of advice when I was 27, I don't know, start saving up for a hair transplant. That's what I would do.
Man, your hair's fine. What are you talking about? That seems like a shot at me.
No. Oh, so why is you're so self-centered, Corey? Not everything is about you.
Of course I am.
Not everything's about
You
you.
know that. You met me. Your hair's perfect. I would kill for your hair. Yeah, two things. I would not have that crazy hair that I had.
It wasn't that bad, man.
I guess that's not really applicable to him. So I'll keep it more general. Figure you're 27, so you got time, man. If you're in a career or a job,
don't do that. I'm sorry, Corey. I got to jump you. Don't do that. 27. Don't kick the can down. Don't be like, I got time. There's certain things you have time for, but most things you don't have time. Get it done now.
But you're 27, so if you think, man, you know what? I want to be a general manager in baseball. Go figure out a way to do it.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I wasn't talking about not relationship advice, but 27, man. I
wasn't meaning that
I was
either.
Thinking the other day, man, I would love to be a general manager of a team, or like I said, a game clock manager for a football team. Just get into coaching somehow.
Yeah.
If I could go back, I would try to do that some way. Baseball, obviously, I would try to be some sort of baseball coach, and I can't do that now in my 40s. But when I was 27, I could have stopped and pivoted and said, you know what, this is what I really want to do, and I'm going to give myself whatever X amount of years, 3 years, to get on this ladder and start climbing, and just do it because you live once, man, and you don't want regrets. And I have an awesome job. I love my job, but I don't have regrets. But I know plenty of people. I have plenty of friends and just have met plenty of people that really regret not really making a run at what they wanted to do when they had a chance to do it. And when you're young, and I don't know if you have a family or a wife, but if you don't and you have the ability, go chase a dream. Go chase a dream. Just because if you fail, who cares? At least you chased your dream. I'm like Jerry Springer. I should be like a motivational speaker. I don't know that anybody's even listening to this anymore because they're all going out and chasing their dream, Aslan.
Or you could stay in Eugene, Oregon, and just kind of collect $3 million a year and be a head coach of a pretty good football team.
You can do that, and also try to have as many relationships as possible.
FSU fan.
That's a joke.
FSU fan 201207. Jeez.
Oh, that's a good name. Is that his phone number?
No, it's only 6 digits. It's probably 2 area codes that he lived in or something.
It might be the code he uses to open up his iPhone.
Okay, I think so. That works. Guys, love the show as always. Both of you are really gifted and bring some great traits to the show. .com knows how to evaluate. What made Rick Trickett so awful? That's all you, Corey. I wasn't here for it.
He knew what he was doing. He was an O-line coach for 30 years. He was very good at teaching the fundamentals of the offensive line. He wasn't awful. And he wasn't an awful evaluator, I don't think. I think he knew who could play and who couldn't. The problem was he was such a gruff dude and really hard to play for. And we like hard coaches. Offensive line coaches are tough guys, and they are guys that are hard to play for. I think he took it that extra level where even guys that started for him and played for him, if they saw him in the middle of the street, they might give him a handshake and a hug, maybe like a half hug. But I don't know that they'd want to go and have dinner with him. Like, I just don't think it was really fun to play for him at all. And so that word gets out really quickly, maybe even from your own players on recruiting, when they're hosting guys on recruiting trips. And when you tell other players, man, yeah, you got to know who you're getting in. You got to know what you're dealing with here, man. This is different. You've never been coached like this. It can really make it, like I've said, it shrinks the pool you're fishing from, because some guys just can't be coached like that. They just don't want to be coached like that. They don't want to be hat whipped. They don't want to be told how dumb they are. They don't want to be yelled at all the time. And so they don't come to Florida State. So at Florida State, where you should be able to get the best players in the country at every position, at the most important position on the field, you were shrinking the pool a little bit, and you could only there weren't as many fish in it. Pond, I guess I should have used more of an accurate body of water. So that, I think, was the problem with Rick Trickett, is you just couldn't recruit big-time offensive linemen with him because of his reputation as being such a hard coach.
Also,
right?
yeah.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He also, we don't have to do it today, but he would love to know our backstory of how he ended up getting into journalism. We'll do that maybe like next week. We'll have plenty of time. Let's get to one final one. Maxwell Gibbs. I got to edit his post before I read him. 'Tis the season, gents. I love the hire of Mike Norvell. Unlike Willie, he has a track record of hiring great coaches who develop players. He plays to his strengths and caters his offense. He brings discipline and passion to the program. And last but not least, he doesn't say he's just going to do something. And maybe I'm Maxwell Gibbs. Maybe I take Ambien and I wake up in the middle of the night and then I post questions under Maxwell Gibbs.
That sounds like it. Y'all are peas in a pod for sure.
Anyhow, some of this stuff is dated, so let's just get to this one. What are you most excited about regarding the Mike Norvell hire? And I got one last thing to say. Don't worry, I will keep these Willie rants going all offseason until spring. But all right, what are you most excited about regarding the Mike Norvell hire? I was going to say afternoon practices, but he's going to probably practice in the morning. But at least we get to talk, I think, after practice. At least that's what he did.
Well, that's
Memphis.
what we're hoping. The next time we talk to him, which should be on Wednesday for National Signing Day, if I get a chance to take him aside, that's exactly what I'm going to suggest. Okay. Hey, man, let us talk to your players after practice and you after practice. Not just because it saves us 2.5 hours of sleep, but also how many times have we talked to players in the last 2 years where we had 2 minutes to talk because they had to get to practice. Practice was starting without them. And then Willie had 7 minutes to talk. But if it's after practice, they'll have, we won't be rushed as much.
No.
And also their mind's not on answering questions when they're about to go practice for 2. I mean, they're getting ready to knuck if they buck. And they don't have time to answer our questions. They're not thinking about that. They're thinking about knucking. So that's what I'm going to suggest, is to make sure we get them after practice is what I hope we can do. But it's still going to be morning practices, apparently. That's that's something that's big with him.
It's a prerequisite for hiring a football coach at Florida State, supposedly. I don't know. John Thrasher and David Coburn just really love that morning practice. It's like a prerequisite. So does Glenn Sugiyama, apparently.
I guess, man. God bless these morning practices.
But the thing, though, is even after practice, they're going to be in a rush because then they have to go to class. So it's going to be, but obviously I'm just doing it selfishly. I want to sleep a little bit longer. And maybe you can kind of ask, hey, how was practice? Instead of, hey, how was practice 23 hours ago? That would maybe help. But I don't have to write, so that doesn't really bother me that much. What makes me most excited about the Norvell hire? Let me count the ways.
Isn't it the way people talk about him? Does that excite you?
Well, I think the Memphis fans are excited because he did, he took them to unprecedented heights. Again, I don't know how much that's going to carry over here. The Memphis media, I mean, that's encouraging. Like, all the Memphis media could not stop gushing about, hey, Tallahassee, like you might not think that this guy is all that, but he is. Just wait and see. So either they really believe that, or he was really awesome to work with, so they're biased. So that's a good sign. And I'm really not being sarcastic. I am really trying to kind of figure out, because there were things that I did like. I mean, I do think he has a well-articulated kind of approach. He talked about old school, new school approach, old school principles. He mentioned the fact that, he wants to just these guys to give him the opportunity to earn their trust. He's not going to ask them for anything. I do think he probably has a better feel for how he wants an offense to run, and he's going to have the guy here helping him do that. I just don't know if he's going to have all the pieces to kind of make it run really well from the jump. I mean, that kind of stuff concerns me. He's my age. That's pretty cool. Maybe we can talk about Saved by the Bell. Maybe we can bond over Kelly Kapowski. I don't know. I really wanted one of the Mats. So it hurts. But I'm not down on Norvell. I'm just developing, trying to get this love romance sparked.
I guess the thing I'm most excited about is that he had that 93 license plate on his wall in his bedroom.
Yes.
Means he's a big-time Florida State fan. Probably can name every player off that team. In seriousness, I think it's the way people talk about him. I think it's the fact that he gets, he already has one guy locked up. Even the DC that obviously we weren't fired up about that hire if he's going to be the DC, Adam Fuller. He's coming with him. Like, again, that's another good sign that he, the thing that fires me up the most, the thing I've already talked about, the fact that he was able to cycle through so many coaches and still be very good.
Yeah, that's good.
That he not created coaches, but he identified guys that were very good at their jobs, so good that they got bigger jobs within a year or two of being with him. He was very good at identifying. He didn't hire a lot of duds, it wouldn't appear. So that's a very good That's a very good sign that he knows how to evaluate coaching talent. Now, evaluating player talent is more important, but not that much more important. Like, evaluating coaching talent is a really big deal, and you can make an argument the last 3 years, going back to Jimbo's last year, man, they have not had a good assistant staff at all, and that's been a big problem. There have not been a lot of up-and-comers on this assistant staff. There haven't been any young dynamos, guys that are on the fast track. There haven't been a lot of those in the Florida State program in recent years. It'll be nice to have those guys again if that indeed happens, because it just hasn't been a great assistant stable for a while now. Like, who was the last big-time assistant that they lost or even had? Jeremy Pruitt?
Yeah.
Is that right? Like, that's right?
Yeah. I would say that.
Where you'd say he's an up-and-comer. He's a guy that's going up quickly. It's Jeremy Pruitt. Like, that was 6 years ago. Yeah. Again, when you talk about Florida State should always have good quarterbacks, it always should have good players, they should always have really good assistants. And Jimbo missed the mark late in his tenure here, and Willie missed the mark almost completely during his time at Florida State. So if we can get back to that again, where you just have a good assistant staff, that'd be nice. That'd be pretty cool. Also, 2 more pieces of advice that I thought of while during the break. Number 1, just steroid him up. These are advices I'm giving to Norvell.
Oh, okay. I thought
nobody ever gets busted for steroids, hardly ever anymore. Yeah. Who was the last person that got busted for steroids in college football? Brian Bosworth?
Will Greer.
It just doesn't happen. So steroid him up and just hope you don't get caught. And then obviously, no paper trails. No money orders, no checks.
Straight cash.
Just do what you have to do, but do it behind the scenes. Be cool with it. And no paper trails. Okay. I don't know what you had to do at Memphis. It's probably a whole different game back there. But you're recruiting against the big boys now. So steroids, no paper trails. That's college football in the South, Mike.
Be sure to join us tomorrow.
Hey, I wanted to say one more thing real quick, Aslan, before we go.
Go ahead.
Anybody else ask you about the tattoo?
I got 2 DMs that I don't live in town, but dude, can you tell me what the tattoo was?
Did you tell them?
No.
But you will tell people in person, right?
I
that should be because I already have. I've already told 12 people. So if somebody comes and asks you in person, I feel like you should tell. Again, no paper trail. You don't want that in a DM, but you can tell them face to face.
Join us tomorrow where we'll finish out these questions. And the first question we're going to tackle is going to be from Flash FSU, who asks, would you rather be the first person on Mars but know you're going to die there, or be the 13th person on the moon but nobody really cares? Join us tomorrow, friends.
If you want an adventure, you could climb a mountain or ride dune buggies through the desert. Or you could just head to your neighborhood Zaxby's. Introducing the Smokehouse Cheddar Barbecue and Southwest Chipotle Filet Sandwich Meals. They're brand new, and they'll take your taste buds to wild and exciting new places. Both feature our famous hand-breaded chicken, and they're both available for a limited time. Only at your neighborhood Zaxby's. And don't miss Jumanji: The Next Level, only in theaters.